Good morning, ma'am. We're about to explain and report the tips on film viewing. How to watch a movie intelligently and critically. Tips on film viewing part 2. This additional list of how-tos or the procedures of film viewing is to provide for the advanced moviegoers to stimulate the thought about the film. So here, we're about to broaden our knowledge upon knowing the film's context, the film's production, the film's budget, the film's marketing, and many more. Furthermore, it gives us helpful hints on the nature of reading, watching, analyzing, critically viewing, and deconstructing the film to take apart the film's components and interpret how it was all intentionally assembled together. Anyone can learn the language, the structure, the techniques of cinema, both past and present. The Internet Movie Database, the website is www.imdb.com, is always a useful resource for factual information about films. So, if you are viewing intelligently and critically, then you will visit this kind of website in order for you to know the factual information about the film you are viewing today. Here are additional, more detailed components to discover when critically viewing a film to improve one's cinematic sensibility and literacy, and also to unpack further layers of meaning. How to watch a film in more depth. So first, learn about the film's production. So here you are able to know the film's date of production, study the production credits to learn more about the film's production, and lastly, research interesting facts about the making of the film. So here in this type of component, you are able to know when was the film's production, when was it being approved and published, and also the production credits of the film's production, and lastly, what is the truth behind the making the film, and what is its purpose, why is it made, and what is it for. Second, understand the marketing. So here you are discovering how the film was marketed and or distributed. What were its taglines, its posters, and its trailers. So in this type of component, you are answering the questions in your mind. How did this movie become famous? Why does other people talk about this movie? Why does other people know about this movie? What did the film's production do to make this movie being known by people? The third one, know the original screen size. So if you're going to watch a film in a movie theater, if possible, know where it was designed to be projected, or just purchase the film in its widescreen format or in its original format. Take note, understand that films that are made by late 1950s have a width to height aspect ratio of 4:3 or 1.33:1. This is called Academy ratio, or it is just similar to a television screen. While modern films have non-standard widescreen ratios that are often viewed by a pan and scan mode. So for the fourth one, determine the choice of film stock. So here, you are considering why was the film being made, either being colored or black and white, if a choice is possible. So you are watching here, how did the color or the black and white is being used in the film. The next one, research budget and box office. So here you are able to know the budget and the box office of the film. You are answering the questions like, what is the film's budget? Did it go over budget or under budget? And how did the film do at the box office? Did it go straight to the video?
So in discovering film's context is we have this question: what was the social, political, or historical context for the film? So what is its circumstances and facts for the film? And we have the other question: was there any controversy surrounding the film's release? So is there a argument or disagreement in the film's release? Next, we have learned about initial reception. So what was the film's original reception? So what's the purpose or what its actions? So next we have how is the film perceived today? So how does the film recognized as today's era. And here is read about reviewers, critics, and opinions. So discern what major reviews, press reviews, or critics of the viewer. So you need to acknowledge or notice the reviews, the ratings, the critics. So next, we have here understand the film's influence. So learn if the film influence for the future films. So ano mo aabot ng mga films. Does it influence the other screenwriter to copy the film? So next, did it pay homage to a previous film in some way? So more like giving credits or mentioning the original creator of the film. So next is study the narrative origins and the script. So you need to learn about the script or screenwriter. If there's a video, you might compare it to the actual film if it's the same or it's the film is reflected to the script, or they followed the script or they change it their way. So here are, is it adapted from some other work or based on an original idea? So if adapted, how well does it follow the original? And if original, how fresh and innovative is it? So adapted is more like other film that they just add other script or other work, and more like a parody. Next is if it's original, so how fresh and innovative it is. So if it's original, well, depends on how fresh and innovative it is. So does the film's screenplay effectively communicate the story through action and dialogue? So does the screenplay, or does it really explain the story through the dialogues?
Learn whether it's a fact or fiction. If the film based off the upon historical event or a person, how true life is the film. Historical film is a true life experience for about yesteryears. For me, it's a very accurate. Is the film fact or fiction? A fact, historical film are based on the true life experience before. This mythologies is a historical event of the period. Yes, those authorized about the true-to-life films are inspired by historical events. Examine plot structure or story. How the film structured. Determine film's pivotal scenes and sequencing. How is the story plot told? Through normal exposition, by flashback, with a narrator, by voiceover, chronologically or linearly, character-driven, objectively or subjectively, otherwise. What is the vantage point from the which film is represented? The film that presented is a show for every one of us and to have knowledge about what our yesteryears had happened on earth. Thus parallelism is the film cuts backward between two scenes that happening simultaneously or at different times exist between the two or more scenes. Film often represented the past and the present. Are the transition between scenes effective? Transitions help understand what structure does the movie have. Is the climax and resolution denouement? Climax is the center of the movie where the thrilling part is. Does the film's narrative provide continuity from scenes to scenes? Is the reality followed by the scenes to follow the flow of the film? Is the closure by film and some movies are closure but others have because is the continued at the part 2. Study running time and the timeline. Knowing the runtime of the film and location of various segments or sequence or turning points within the frame. Keep track the timeline films parts with a digital counter or a VCR or DVD player. As centered special visual effects. Learn about special visual effects within the film or determine skillfully they are handled. Consider whether advanced computer-generated technical aspects of the essential film's plot or whether their unrestrained use overwhelm that the dramatic storytelling elements and sacrifices subcomes, namely the plot and the characters.
At this moment, let us distinguish the character and acting performance. Character is the moral and mental qualities distinctive to an individual. Acting performance is how you deal or perform the task. It is how you work with imaginary objects and partners, performing appropriate physical and psychological tasks and others. In film viewing, we need to consider also the film's main characters. Are their names significant or important? Also consider a few of the minor characters and how they are used. A brief descriptions for each one, their major motivation or ethical values or assumptions, their character's development. Next is recognize the theme, which is we need to look for the film's central themes, motive, idea, or dominant message, as well as the film's subtext. Also, we need to identify prominent symbols and metaphors within the films and determine the purpose and overall effect. Ask yourself, what popular ideologies are reproduced and reinforced in the film? Does the film have an original theme or the traditional one? Is the film's theme adequate or successfully supported by the story, acting, and other film elements? And that's how we will going to recognize the theme. Another is observe style and tune. Decided the overall style and tune of the films nourish, sophisticated, suspenseful, slapstick. Then observe costuming. Identify the use of period costumes, body physics, and hairstyle. Lastly is identify dialogue. Identify the most important lines of dialogue and identify any lengthy monologues or speeches. Note how the dialogue is delivered: fast, mumbled, overlapping, loud, soft. Finally, asked, are there any recurring lines or dialogue, and how do they function?
Disclosing stereotyping. So to disclose or expose or reveal stereotypes where the characters being reinforced. So we have already watched or viewed many times different character facades. For example, in a love story, we are already imagining a rich guy fell in love with a poor but beautiful girl. And in Philippine movies, we are already expecting mistresses, mga ampon, mga traitors, mga evil sisters. Those are examples of stereotypes, and we are just going to determine if those characters or settings or scenes were being challenged or improved, because somehow revealing stereotypes, it can help attract many viewers. It will, no matter how many times or how we are being used to watch different usual stereotypes in film viewings, we still love to watch it, and that's how disclosing stereotyping works. So second is to reveal directing. So learn about the director's entire repertoire of films, stylistic characteristics, and favorite techniques. Is the director a veteran or a novice? For example, if we have already watched a movie, we are expecting a newly produced movie, and we are used to many directors being or using the same techniques. So if we're going to identify the characteristics, mga styles that a directors are used to use, or they are usually using those techniques, the director shape the story. Was it good or was it bad? So how did the director tell the story? How did the director retell the ideas that he or she used? So third is to perceive cinematography and visual cues. So identify the film cinematographer, stylistic and visual characteristics, use of lighting and color to create a mood, use of a static or moving camera, amount of close-ups, and favorite techniques. So compare screen time to story time. So cinematography, all in all, or in general, we can identify a good cinematography by the quality, the different camera angles, different face of close-ups, different lightings that the visual stylist used. Cinematography basically is an art or science of motion picture photography. So being aware of different cinematographies and visual cues were being used, lighting, the color, it somehow it excites us, or it adds life to the different scenes being produced. Critically or intelligently watch a movie, considering cinematography is very basic but very important thing to do, because it is one of many criteria of how we are going to determine if the movie or the film was good enough for us to make a critic about it. Fourth is to listen to score or soundtrack. So identify the film's composer and any previous similar works. Note any memorable songs and or dances. So listen carefully to how the music or the score functions within the film to underscore the action, to move the story along, or to provide an emotional tone or mood. So for example, in a horror story or in a horror movie, soundtracks and many sound effects are very relevant or very useful. So sometimes we're not really scared of the scenes being showed, but we are soundtracks and sound effects really adds to the emotions or mood of the scenes. So listening to score and soundtrack, it is very important for us to determine if the film soundtrack was appropriate, subtle, or effective. Is it inappropriate? Is it overwhelming and dominating? So note if silence is used or the sound effects are being exaggerated in a certain event or in a certain scene.
Out the mise-en-scene. Mise-en-scene includes setting, costumes, makeup, lighting, camera positioning, and movements. Mise-en-scene literally means placing on stage, but in film mise-en-scene, it composes everything that camera captured. How set is lit, how the subjects are framed, how actors look, what actors are wearing, props, and set dressing. Identify locations or settings. Are they each appropriate and effective? This is the different kinds of settings: geographical or place, temporal or time period, locations or on-site, studio sets, and important props. Notice film conventions or cliches. Notice film conventions used in film, for instance. First is cars that crash will almost always burst into flames. Next is all telephone numbers in America begin with digits 555. The conventions of a genre are the elements that commonly occur in such films. They may include things like characters, situations, settings, props, themes, and events. For example, a convention of the science fiction genre is that the story often includes robots, aliens, time travels, or genetic manipulation. Detect editing. Is the film seamlessly smooth and edited? Film transitional edits such as jump cuts, wipes, fade-ins, fade-outs, and etc. Video editing is important because it is the key to blending images and sound to make us feel emotionally connected and sometimes truly there in film we're watching. It's a safe assumption to say that video editing is among the most important jobs in the film industry. Listen to audio clues. Listen to the film audio clues. Examples are sound effects, music, dialogue or voice, and silence. The use of audio clues is to make sound bridges, on-screen versus off-screen sounds, post-synchronized and versus direct sound, diegetic sound, and non-diegetic sound.